Hello there and thank you for clicking on this video. As you can see by the title, we're gonna talk about Moon Knight Season 1 or Moon Knight the Limited Series. They don't even know yet, so we're just gonna talk about what we just saw because let me tell you real quick, I'm kind of disappointed. I usually don't have any big expectations of any movie or any show, but this time when I saw the trailer and did some research on the Moon Knight character because I was super unfamiliar with the character, I grew super excited because the trailer had all the right dark tones, the brutal violence that we expect from the servant of Khonshu, from the Fist of Vengeance. This is what you expect, very grounded, dark tones, similar to Daredevil and the Punisher, because apparently they're kind of sharing the same grounded universe, not like, Thanos or Thor, It's a different thing. So you had Oscar Isaac, you had the whole dream, sleepwalking, horror, nightmare vibes, and they were all great. The costume seemed amazing, and I still think that the costume is really one of the best things to come out of this show. I think this is maybe my favorite costume from any live action Marvel thing so far. I think it's really great. And this was also the doorway for the other Netflix shows to come into this universe. Jessica Jones that I didn't watch, Iron Fist that I didn't watch, and Luke Cage that I really didn't watch. But I did see the Defenders and Daredevil and the Punisher, and I love the three of them. But unfortunately, I think that this wouldn't work with the current state of the Marvel universe, because even Kevin Feige himself, he was like overhyping this show, He said something like, we're not pulling punches, this is Moon Knight, this is totally different thing, it's tonally different. It's brutal, it's loud, it's Moon Knight, but we didn't get to see any of that, which makes me scared for the future of, Daredevil and the Punisher. Which brings me to my next point, which is titled Broken Promises. This is a post that I posted yesterday, which is a review of Moon Knight, and I'm using this as a cheat sheet. It's more or less summarized my thoughts from this video, but in this video you're gonna hear more in-depth thoughts from me on Moon Knight. But I can say this again, because do you want to see Batman and Daredevil and Iron Man sitting down and talking to psychiatrists and talking about their feelings and crying every minute, and then Karen Page becoming the hero of the show? Or do you want to see them be badass and fight for justice and be the Fist of Vengeance? Do you want to see that, or do you want to see them cry every 5 seconds? As I said, this show for me, and I assume for many other people, it was kind of like the doorway for all the show to stay true to their origins, to stay true to being grounded, street level, street smart, to be all of that. But no, we got two giant figures from the ancient Egyptian mythology fighting in front of the pyramids of Giza. And more when it comes to broken promises, we have this conversation between the Punisher and Moon Knight that I absolutely love. It's very nice, but this can never happen now. Like, if Mark Spector or Jake Lockley tries to do something like that, Steven with TV is gonna come out and say, oh, wait mate, cheers, I'm so sorry for my friend here. Do you want a cup of water? I just want to say water. Or whatever. It's a bad accent, I'm sorry, but I want to say it, so deal with it. I can never see Steven with the V, even Mark Spector, stand next to the Punisher and Daredevil. Like, Steven with the V is gonna cry, and the Punisher is gonna slap him, and Daredevil is gonna just stare at him and being pity. It's not gonna work. Another thing that this show was like the less straw for me when it comes to like female characters, because I'm sorry, but Layla is basically Sylvie, and Sylvie is basically Loki, and Layla is basically Moon Knight, but like a better version of Moon Knight. Every female Marvel character is like a cold, soulless machine. They're perfect, they don't have any room for growth, they're basically know-it-alls. There is no balance between the female characters and the male characters. Back in the day, obviously Black Widow, we had this beautiful femme fatale who was balancing out the chaotic and angry and aggressive energy that comes from, for example, you have Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, measuring their, you know what? And then you have Black Widow, who's very calm and balanced, and she's like, guys, just calm down, let's do some work, calm the fuck down. But now we don't have that. We have two very, very similar, actually the same characters that are just clashing, you know. It's, you don't have the balance anymore. And obviously you have the same character over and over and over again. You have Wanda, then you have the girl from Falcon, the two girls from Falcon, and then you have Sylvie, and now you have Layla, and kind of Kate Bishop, but Kate Bishop showed some more personality at least. I guess my next point is thoughts on the plot, which I'm gonna use my cheat sheet again. At the core, the plot of Moon Knight is about preventing this bad guy from unleashing a bigger bad guy onto the world. And even though the story is pretty straightforward, you know, preventing bad from happening, the story is full of flashbacks and trauma-inspired plot lines, and some plot lines that don't contribute anything to the overall story. As I say here, after watching it, I was left so confused about what the hell is happening, where's the show going, what do you want to even do with the show? And on the other hand, which I kind of forgot to say, is Mark Spector, we know we are on his journey because he suffers from personality disorder, and he has these two personalities, Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley. We don't know anything about Jake Lockley except he's crazy, that's evident. But Stephen with a V, Stephen Grant, that I like to call Stephen with a V because he's not Stephen, he's Stevie with a V, who stings like a bee. This was in the episode. I couldn't. When I saw that, I just couldn't. So as it says here, Mark has to go on this journey where he has to self-discover himself, where he has to discover himself and, you know, be his own man. But at the end of the day, Stephen with TV ends up being the dominant personality, which was just disappointing and annoying. Also, I don't think that the 6 episodes format or the 8 episode format that Marvel is using now it doesn't work. I think you need more episodes to develop new characters. Like, for example, Daredevil, it had like 13 episodes, I think, and every episode was super meaningful and contributed something to the story and to the character. But in Moon Knight, 6 episodes full of nothing. The characters, as I mentioned, unfortunately, from the badass Mark Spector Moon Knight that I expected, we ended up being with Stephen with the V. Let's start with Stephen with the V because I must admit, he at least went through some character development, you know, from, let me read that because I'm very proud of that passage here. From a whiny, annoying, scared, crying, a screaming little girl who is incapable of doing basically anything, he became, admittedly, somewhat of a decisive, brave, still annoying, but courageous man, even though he doesn't really exist. And that's one of my biggest problems with this show, which I guess goes back to the plot. Stephen doesn't really exist. I mean, I don't know exactly how personality disorders work, but when Mark and Stephen were on the ship, you've seen the show, you know what I mean, and he fell into the field, I thought that he would disappear because he doesn't exist. He doesn't have a soul on his own. He's imaginary in a way. I mean, in any way, actually, because even though this is like a show, it's set up in a universe where there's magic and stuff, it's still all in Mark's head, in my opinion. Stephen doesn't really exist. Jake doesn't exist. At the end of the day, it's still Mark. But if I must look at Stephen as his own thing, I am more positive towards him, and but I still don't want to see him ever again. I actually, no. Going next to Mark Spector, I'm gonna read again because I actually am kind of proud of that. Mark Spector is a tormented soul who, in the long line of tormented Marvel souls, is nothing short of forgettable and lackluster. In the long line of tormented Marvel souls, aka Thor is depressed now, Doctor Strange, I don't think he's too excited in the Multiverse of Madness. You have Hawkeye, who was basically dead in his own show. Loki's, I have no idea what's going on with Loki, he's just bad. And you know, every character now is just depressed. Let's continue. He was never the tough, crazy, kick-ass Moon Knight I expected when I saw the trailer. His emotional trauma was nicely explored, I must say that. In episode 5 I even cried a bit, it was nice. But I'm just tired of every hero being sad and depressed, and obviously I do understand the reasons, but why do they all have to have some sort of trauma? I'm just tired of it, really tired. And when it boils down to it, Mark Spector started out the same and ended up being the same. The next character is Layla. I don't think that she brings anything to the table. I don't think that she's innovative or fresh. She's just basically Sylvie. I don't know, I don't think that she enriches the story in any way, and she's just there because we need strong female characters, soulless code machines that know it all. That's basically it. I'm sorry. Layla is fine. She seems like a nice person, but she doesn't bring anything. I want to say, you know, I compared the show to Daredevil. We didn't get to explore Karen Page's history until I think season 3. And I'm fine with that. You know, when I watch a show called Daredevil or Moon Knight, I want to learn about Daredevil and Moon Knight, not about Karen Page. Obviously, I like her. I love her. She's a great character. But she should be, you know, we should explore more of the side characters later, not right in episode 1 or 2 or even 3. Like, no, we need that time to build up the main character. Also, her romance with Stephen WTV doesn't make sense. And about her and Mark Spector, apparently they're husband and wife, but whenever I would see Mark and her on the screen together, it was always super distant and super cold, and there was no chemistry whatsoever. And she fell in love with Stephen WTV because reasons, I guess. Arthur is, I mean, Ethan Hawke is a great actor, but Arthur was just wasted. But I must admit, the scenes that Ethan Hawke, Arthur, and Mark Spector, and Moon Knight, and Steven, and whatever got to do in the hospital setting, I think that this was great, and this was the only time that Arthur got some decent script. And I think that this was the only time that they could show off their acting skills. I think that the whole dynamic of that was very fun, and at least they used Arthur in a good way there. Because when he was chanting like, rise, whoever, it was just stupid. And then you have Jake Lockley, who seems to be able to bring some color into this lackluster universe, but do I even care anymore? The last character I want to talk about is Khonshu. He was great. I don't have anything to say about him because he's cool. Me and him, we share a dislike of Steven with TV, so I love him. Whenever he says like, you fool, I'm like, yeah. Did he throw the gun? I was like, he did. Wow. Marvel. That's how dumb do you want to be? So the last point I guess I want to talk about is things like visual effects and music and stuff. I think the visual effects, I never complain about visual effects in CGI because I don't think that is that important. But when you are in 2022 and you have the resources that Marvel has, and this show is supposed to be your newest, hottest thing, and the visual sucks so much, everything looks so fake. I mean, I'm sorry, but I cannot cut you any slack here because it's awful. The music was fine. While I was writing this, I was listening to it and I was like, okay, it's fine. It's nothing mind-blowing. I guess they should have had more Egyptian, you know, influence into that, but unfortunately not. And I was kind of surprised to hear that the whole like writing stuff and directors and everybody were from Egypt, were Egyptian. And I just cannot explain the disrespectful and distasteful portrayal of the Egyptian gods. I love ancient Egypt. I loved everything about it. I mean, I have Horus. The fact that they were saying things like save space, and when they brought in Arthur and they were like, so Arthur, are you a bad guy? Do you want to unleash Ammit? And he was like, no. What? And they're like, okay. And it's like, how dumb do you want to make them? Like, these are huge historical, mythological, figures. And you're making them so dull, so stupid. Right out stupid. I just couldn't, I couldn't believe what I'm watching. I guess I have to say something positive. Oscar Isaac's performance was great. The costume was great. The trailer was great. I mean, this is not part of the show, but the trailer was amazing. Khonshu was amazing. The blackouts were done well. As I said, the hospital scenes between Arthur and Moon Knight and his personalities was actually really enjoyable to watch. It was very well written. I think it was well done. I think some of the dynamic between Steven and Mark was also fine. And the whole setup and premise of Moon Knight with the whole ancient Egyptian mythology and Khonshu and the whole scene we saw where he became Moon Knight at Khonshu's altar, I think these were great things. I think that there's so many wasted opportunities, which brings me to my last point. I mean, wasted opportunities. The whole trailer was so great and he was so mysterious, you know. He was such a mysterious character with all the dark and brutal vibes, you know, a character like Moon Knight will bring with him. There's so many possibilities, there's so many opportunities, you can go so many places, but just the length of wasted opportunities. This is what every Marvel show is to me. I just couldn't get invested into anything. Do I want a second season? Not really. And on the other hand, I mean, this does have a beginning, a middle, and an end, even though the end wasn't satisfying. I mean, it had it, I guess, some sort of an ending. So I thought, where do you go from here? And what about how do the internals feel about the Egyptian gods, and what do the Nordic, you know, gods like Thor, how do they feel about them? Do they know about them? Now, I don't care that this is not that related to the Marvel universe, but these are valid questions. If you want to build, I mean, you've already built, but if you want to continue this multiverse, you know, this Marvel universe, whatever, like, it's confusing. It's very convoluted. I have no idea. There's so much wasted potential. I'm so sad because I recently found about this channel, the Russian comic book geek, and he dubs over like some comic book pages, and wow, what I just saw, I'm gonna put it up here. I'm like, this is who Moon Knight should be, you know, a badass, no pulling punches person, and he's just like walking around, couldn't be bothered with anything. It's sad. So do let me know, guys, down below, what do you think of Moon Knight? Do you want a second season? Are you satisfied with what we saw? Do you want to see him next to the Punisher and Daredevil, and Daredevil, like, no, Punisher beating the shit out of him because he's a whiny B-word? I'm sorry, but this is the truth. Do let me know, what do you expect to happen next? See you next video, and as always, may the force be with you.